Good evening, 6 o'clock. Tonight we're going to be doing the reorg, and before we call this meeting to order, we would like to swear in the new and the re-elected board members. Please come to the front so we can do the oath. I'll do both. So sorry, just be careful. And you can stand over here so we can, the mic can grab up to you. You like to face forward so the camera can
Oh, yeah.
capture you? Thank
Okay.
you.
Let me pull this out a little.
Oh, that's it.
A little bit. There we go.
There we go.
Good.
Oh, that's good.
You will read the oath stating your name, and you can omit any other section at the end if you do not
Oh.
want to say that section.
Okay.
And you may begin.
Okay.
Both together. and
Oh,
stating
at
your
the same
name.
time.
Okay. I, Christina Astorino, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God.
Thank you. Well,
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
State your name. You never saw Animal House?
Well,
Many times.
you know, she already typed it in for me, so they didn't.
You're making an Animal House proof.
Yeah. If she had done that, you know, left it.
Then you would have just continued reading without it, right? All right, we'll continue. This meeting is called to order at 6:02 p.m. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The result of the annual school elections held November 5th, 2024 are as follows. Mrs. Christina Astorino, 5,200 votes. Dr. Clifford Moore, 3,688 vote, total of 8,888.
Damaris, do we need to do the roll call?
I will do that now. Thank you. Dr. Moore,
Here.
Mrs. Agelis,
Here.
Mrs. Astorino,
Here.
Mr. Cass,
Here.
Mr. Anderson will be absent, Mr. Capello,
Here.
Mr. Kim.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask nominations for board president for the 2025 calendar year. May I please have a nomination?
I have a nomination of Mr. Kim to be the head of the board.
I'll roll call. Please state yes or no if you are in agreement with Mr. Kim as board president. I do need a second, yes.
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I'm not following my own agenda.
That was a test to see if we were paying attention.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Seydellis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes.
Mr. Kim, you may assume the board meeting,
Yes, I will take over. Thank you very much, Ms.
and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I will now take nominations for Vice President.
I would like to nominate Dr. Moore.
I'll second.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Kurowski, roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Seydellis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. All right. Sure.
Congratulations, Dr. Congratulations, Dr. Clifford.
Yeah, Dr. Moore, congratulations. And once again, I want to thank the board for having trust and faith in myself and Dr. Moore. This year, I believe, is going to be another challenging year. And this year, with the new demographic study and with the 5-year strategic plan, we hope to maybe make some educated decisions or guided decisions and with a lot more discussion, but hopefully by the end of this year, one of my goals is to really look at the classroom sizes and really look at that classroom size policy and get that going. The other goal I have for this year is to have the governance committee become more permanent. That meets maybe 2 or 3 times a quarter, so maybe anywhere from 4 to 6 times a year, and so that we can look at some policies as well as introducing board retreats for longer meetings that might include some board dinners or something like that. So hopefully I think we have a full docket for this year, and we can have another productive year. So thank you for your trust and faith in me. Okay, moving on to the agenda. The committees are also attached, I believe, to this agenda, or if not, an electronic version. For the board members, if you wish to make any changes to your committees and which committee you'd like to be involved with, please let me know. Ms. Astorino, if you have any questions, feel free to ask myself or any board member about what the different committees might be, and we can get you situated on that as well.
In the board packet in the board docs for this meeting, which you'll get after, you can see the blank version of the committees page. That's for you, Mr. Kim. And if you once you're ready, you can update it. You have access to it as an editor and add in who you want, or if you want, I did leave 2024 at the bottom in the other tab, so you could see those as well.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Forte. All right, we'll take this time to now open it up for public comments at 6:09 p.m. So there's currently no one online and no one in the chambers, so we'll go ahead and close open comments at 6:09 p.m. And Mr. Capello, could you take us through Section 5 appointments, please?
I would be happy to. If there are no objections under appointments, I would like to move items 1 through 18, I believe. These include appointment of our auditor for 2025, our insurance services attorneys, also actually various attorneys for different parts of different activities. We have appointment for Phoenix Advisors. Continuing on, We have appointing Genesis as our accounting and personnel software vendor, E-Rate Consulting, EI Associates as our architect of record. We have AA Collection, Inc. to process debt collection matters, Garden State Environmental, and then 12 are various appointments and designations for the Board of Ed, including bylaws, existing charts of accounts, appointments for the business administrator, board secretary, treasurer of school monies, and so on. Actually, looks like we might have a numbering issue.
Yes, I just noticed that.
Okay.
So 18 will be 20, 19 will be 21, 20 will be 22, 21 will be 23, 22 will be 24, 23 will be 25, 24 will be 26.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry. I said update. Thank you for correcting me. I thought we stopped at 18.
25 will be
Okay.
27, 26 will be 28, and that'll be the end.
Yeah, just to clarify, number 18, that on page 8 of the agenda is going to be now number 20.
Correct.
So, because there are two 18s, so we just want to clarify that for the public. And so our final resolution, which happens to be on page 10, would be number 28.
So just to modify what I'm moving items 1 through 28.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Mr. Capello. Was there more that you wanted to add?
Kind of continues on. We obviously are appointing a lot of different people and a lot of different organizations that help us run the district. And we're approving health benefit waiver payments. So it's a pretty, it's the usual boilerplate list of things. I'm not going to go through it unless anybody'd like to dive into specifics.
I'll second.
Thank you. For the public, this is a requirement for the board by the state, and this is typically what we do at the start of every meeting or calendar year meeting. So this is just some administrative housekeeping that's required by the state. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. All right, moving on to the agenda. Dr. Moore, can you take us through B, adoption of the public meeting calendar, please? On page 10.
Apologies. Sure. If there are no objections, I'd like to move the following resolution that the board adopt the attached 2025 Board of Education public meeting calendar.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
I just had one question. I was just double checking. School board's workshop looks like it's October 20th through the 23rd. So I think we're okay on the calendar.
I concur.
Right? We're good? Okay, cool.
Since there are no questions or comments, roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is the good of the cause, correspondence and discussion items. It looks like at this point, we'll go ahead and do the school board member code of ethics. So all board members should have a copy of the Code of Ethics. And every year, we typically do a round robin where one board member might read a statement or a clause, and then we can all sign the document and hand it over to Ms. Gorowski. So I'll proceed, and we'll just head over to our right with Dr. Moore following it up. So the Code of Ethics for School Board Members, New Jersey Statute SA 18A: 12-24.1. A school board member shall abide by the following code of ethics for school board members. I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures.
B, I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing.
C, I will confine my board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them.
D, I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run.
I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education. I will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board.
F, I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups or to use the schools for personal gains or for the gain of friends.
G, I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and, in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its school.
H, I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer.
I will support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties.
J, I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution.
Thank you, board members. If you can go ahead and print your name and sign and date it, and we can all hand it over to Ms. Gorowski. Great, thank you. We passed it all down. Yeah, so you should have them all. Any other discussion items for good of the cause? Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comments for the second time at 6:18 p.m. Seeing no one online and no one in the chambers, we'll go ahead and close it at 6:19 p.m. And since there is no need for executive, is there a need for executive? Not now. Okay, great. So could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? We are adjourned at 6:19 p.m. And we'll go ahead and proceed on to the second meeting, which is now our official working session. So I will call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and/or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Here.
Mrs. Agelis,
Here.
Ms. Astorino,
Here.
Mr. Cass,
Here.
Mr. Capello,
Here.
Mr. Kim.
Here. No executive session at this moment, correct? So we'll go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I don't know why, but I had this sudden surge of adrenaline, so like rushing through this. So I'll take a nice deep breath and we'll proceed. The special presentations that we have scheduled so far this year is officially June 9th will be a goals recap by New Jersey school boards, where we will self-evaluate and set new goals for the new school year. Next up on the agenda is superintendent comments. Dr. Forte.
Thank you. Just note that that date for Charlene Peterson to come is about 2 weeks earlier than we normally do. Just so when you're planning your time on self-evaluations and goal setting. Okay, so snow. We have a solid plan in place, and we've tested our communications, and you're ready if in the need of any closures or emergency days. The anxious generation. Township passed a resolution to take part in the project as well. And we have a Riverview parent named Ms. Watkins, who's volunteered to lead the project and the discussions. She has several years experience working on projects like this. And I don't have any experience. So I was pretty happy that, I have experience reading. I don't want to say that. I just don't have experience with the discussion part of it, of the reading. So I think it was great that she offered to do it. And over break, she sent me a really nice, well thought out plan. And I'm going to have a conversation with her about it on Wednesday. We started working on the 25-26 budget, Damaris and myself. Just to give you guys the heads up, we are definitely not expecting any additional aid this year. As you know, this current school year was the final year for S2 to be fully implemented. So we're not expecting another S2 adjustment. So we're expecting a flat aid. And our athletics in the middle school are in full swing. There's wrestling matches and games going on. And the season goes pretty quick. Believe it or not, most of it will be over in the next 3 weeks or so. And that's it for the superintendent comments.
Thank you. Since Dr. Cullis is not here, we'll go ahead and proceed with business administrator comments. Ms. Karowski?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. At 6:23 p.m., I am opening it up for another round for public discussion. Again, there are no one is online, and there's no one in the chamber, so we'll go ahead and close it at 6:23 p.m. Old business, no action to be taken. Ms. Zadelis, could you walk us through that, please?
I sure can. At the next meeting, myself or someone else will go through the following resolutions for approval. Be resolved that the board approve the following reports for December 2024, the Treasury of School Monies and the Board Secretary reports, as well as B, the education reports, enrollment, health office information, and the approval of the 25-26 holiday calendar, and C, the minutes for December 16th, 2024.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, new business, action to be taken. Dr. Moore, do you mind walking us through personnel? This is something we have to vote on.
Sure. If there are no objections, I'd like to move the following resolutions under personnel for approval. Under item number 1, we have a leave replacement for behaviorist. B is a lunch aide transferring to become a full-time instructional aide. There's a transfer from Lakeview to Valley View for a special education teacher. Retroactive approval to teach an extra period for the LDTC. And I believe on the addendum, there is E, a replacement employee teacher at Lakeview. And then item number 2 is new hire substitutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Steve, actually, if you don't mind, Mr. Kim, I have a question for Steve. This isn't, I mean, it's kind of indirectly related. Substitutes, our pay is 150 a day. Have we seen any changes? Like, I know Dover went to this crazy, has that come down? Do you know? Like, do you know where we kind of stand?
I know that was funded with the ARP money, like the money from COVID. So I don't know if they kept it up, but I did do a check recently and we're pretty competitive. Like it's pretty close. A couple districts are a little higher, like Mountain Lake's a little bit higher than us. Some of the districts are a little lower. So we're really not in a bad spot. I'm not sure if the money is really the reason why we're not getting enough people right now. I don't know. We can look more into it.
Okay, great, thank you. And I know you can have unintended effects because if you raise the substitute rate too much, it starts to impact aid numbers and, you know, our aides, what we pay them and all. So
That's exactly what happens because some of the people aren't making that much and then they'd rather do that. And then we shorten the other jobs. A lot of things we realized during COVID, fix a solution, created two other problems.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes,
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Okay, the next item on instruction and program. So Dr. Moore, I'm going to ask you to see if you can walk through that as well, please.
Sure. I'd like to move for approval of the following resolutions under instruction and program. Number 1 is the curriculum revisions, and number 2 is the revisions to the social studies curriculum.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments?
Yeah, do we have just a little bit more information on those 1 and 2?
So both curricula are being updated, very minor, mostly not typos, but changes in code because the way the state changed the numbering system of the standards, we have to have it updated for CUSAC, which is next week. So they're all very minor changes with just basically changing a different number due to a coding change. That makes sense.
The statutes. Mhm.
So it's like a state mandated, or you want to be on the same page with the state statutes and administrative code.
Yeah. And believe it or not, and this sounds crazy, we actually have to have curricula for classes we don't teach because the state requires you have the curriculum, but not the class. So I know sometimes it's just so, it just doesn't make sense. And I just say that's the way it is. So some of these are exactly that.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes,
Mr. Kim.
Yes. There are no items under governance. So Mrs. Adelis, could you walk us through finance, please?
Sure. I move the following resolutions under finance. 1, be resolved that the board retroactively approve the following out-of-district placement as per the student's IEP.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
yes,
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Under operations, Mr. Cass, if you will, please.
Be glad to. Under operations, item number 1, transportation. There are no actions to be considered on this agenda. Item number 2, building and grounds. Item 2.1, I'm asking the board to approve Magic Touch Construction Company, the lowest bidder in connection with the new ADA toilet rooms at Riverview Elementary School in the amount of $235,000, and it will be paid from capital reserve funds. Item 2.2, I'm asking the board to approve an emergency replacement of a hot water heater at Riverview Elementary School in the amount of $10,800 that will be paid from maintenance reserve.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Let me just give you a little background on both of these. The first one, if you remember, the first bids were around 350,000. So we made some changes, brought it back, and came in at a more reasonable number. But more importantly than that, this is really, let's say, phase two, because phase one is the edX. This is phase two of what are some of the things we could do to get the schools ready for additional students. And for Ms. Astorino especially, what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 classrooms right next to the bathrooms. If you walk into Riverview in the front hallway, there's 2 first grade classrooms. We're going to take a little space from the back of the bathroom and we're going to make it into a classroom bathroom. The rest of the bathroom will remain for the rest of the school, but they'll have their own bathroom. That way, because we're maxed out with the number of classrooms we have with bathrooms as per state code for kindergarten and pre-K. So this will allow us to add 2 kindergarten sections in the district if we need to. But the reason why we want to get ahead of it is because you've all heard it, right? I mean, how long did it take us to build that Valley View bathroom for one stall? Like there was all these issues. It probably took a year, right? So good news is we brought it down $100,000 and now we're going to move on it. The second one, I just happened to be at the school when this happened, walking around with Jerry. We just happened to walk down in the basement. I was like, hey, I haven't been down in the basement in a while. So the 2 of us went down there and we see this thing leaking. So it was kind of crazy that it happened that day. But it was good that we actually saw it because it would have just been leaking into the basement until somebody saw it. And we do have boiler checks. So that's just so you guys know that on a cold days or when even during breaks or anything, if it's a super cold day, we have people doing boiler checks and checking on the machinery over the weekends. That's it.
Thank you for that, Dr. Forte. Seeing there's no other questions or comments, roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Ms. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. All right, the next section of the agenda is new business, no action to be taken. So, Mr. Capello, can you walk us through the personnel section under A?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So at the next meeting, I or someone else under personnel will be moving items 1 through 3. 1 are for new hires, resignations, retirements, employee leaves, or extra pay, at which time there are no listings. 2 is resolving that the board approve employee number 1144 for a leave of absence, and further resolving that approve that leave under New Jersey Family Leave Act, and that the board approve the leave and the employee anticipates a return to work for the 2026-27 school year. And number 3, this would be the section for hiring new substitutes, at which time there are no listings.
Thank you very much. Dr. Moore, can you walk us through instruction and program, please?
Sure. Either myself or someone else will move for approval of the following resolutions under instruction and program. There's nothing under workshops and expenses for number 1. Number 2 is the approval of the following Morris Knowles students to observe at Riverview School as part of their Education 101 class. And number 3 is the approval of the attached list of field trips for 24-25.
Thank you. Next part of the agenda is the finance. So, Mrs. Adelis, can you walk us through that, please?
Sure. At the next meeting, myself or someone else will go through the resolutions under finance. At this time, nothing under, well, actually next time will be milk fund, current expenses and elementary enrichment, as well as number 2, the following list of nurse equipment that is no longer needed in the district. And 3, the donation of 15 warm-up shirts for the girls basketball team.
Thank you. Under Section D, Governance, if there's any policies for that, for the board to review, it'll be listed there. And under E, Operations, Mr. Cass. Actually, I don't see anything under there, Mr. Cass. Did you want to add any comments for Operations?
Maybe next meeting I'll have time off. I don't have to move anything.
All right. And next section is Good of the Cause Committee reports, correspondence, discussion items. So there's the board meeting highlights. Dr. Forte, do you have your bullet points here?
I have the 2 new officers, and I have the inauguration of the 2 board members.
Thank you. If there's anything else that the board members would like to add for the highlights. Okay. In terms of the committees, please send me an email by Wednesday. I do feel like it, because of finance and the budget, we'll have to put together our finance committee pretty quickly. And I'm sure that they would want to schedule their first finance committee meeting soon. During the next meeting, I'd also like to have an overview of where we are with our board goals, sort of like a mid-year review of our board goals. So if that's something that we can include under Good of the Cause, that would be great.
Yeah, well, I'll add board and district goal update.
That's awesome. Thank you. Do you want to do it under like superintendent comments, or should we just keep it under Good of the Cause?
I usually do it under reports in the beginning.
Okay.
Sorry, under presentations.
Okay, great. The other question I had is finance budget binders. I know you don't give out the physical binders anymore, but when do we typically hand those out, or when would you think you'd be available with that?
Dr. Forte and I still reviewing those numbers and budget. We're not closed yet. I'm assuming most likely by the end of February, beginning of March.
Okay.
We're all kind of scrambling for the last round of CUSAC, which is next Wednesday, and then Damaris and I have some meetings ahead of us to go through all the stuff. But it's been pretty. You saw how much stuff we're going through. So once CUSAC's over next week, we'll free up some time.
Yeah, I'd actually like to add some comments about that too. Dr. Forte and the rest of the administration, as well as the staff, has done an amazing job with our CUSAC review. So I've been part of those meetings, and just to see everyone sort of be on top of everything that's required is amazing. So I'm hoping that we have another great result from this next one. So I do plan on being there in person as well, Dr. Forte. Does any other board member wish to say something? Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what that noise is, but actually I had 2 questions. One was about CUSAC. I know in the past, if we achieved a certain rating, it could be put off for a few years, like we basically got a bit of a buy. Is that still a thing, or no, that's gone? Okay. All right.
You have to do it every 3 years.
Gotcha. Okay. I know you guys spend a tremendous amount of time on that. It'd be nice if we could defer it, but guess not. Okay. The other thing is, Mr. Anderson had raised something to me this weekend. I don't know if he had a chance to talk to anybody else about it. The New Jersey Supreme Court denied the various towns that objected to the new affordable housing numbers. They basically denied, or basically came out with a ruling. Came out with a ruling. They denied the request to to defer that or change it. So there was an article in the Daily Record, and it looks like for Denville, the numbers are 58 what they call present need, which is something that apparently the town kind of actively has to make allowances for, 58 affordable units, and prospective need, 485 units. And again, those are affordable housing units as opposed, so the greater whole is obviously could be a couple of thousand. So I just wanted to bring that up. Mike was going to bring it up, but he obviously couldn't be here tonight. That's obviously a huge number, and where that's going to come, who only knows. So
Does the prospective need have anything to do with regular housing too? Like, how the COA units have to do with the regular housing, but you're saying these are 58 units they have to figure out without?
So
Normal?
yeah, the article is a little unclear on the prospective side, but the way that what Mike sent me was that the present need represents the number of rehabilitations of existing housing the municipality must undertake. And then prospective needs are the new affordable housing municipalities must provide a reasonable opportunity to have happen. Obviously, they don't have to build them themselves, but they have to lay the groundwork, I guess, to make that possible.
That's 58, that second number? Or
No, the second number is 485.
So the first number is really rehabilitating properties, not
That sounds like
knocking
what it
trees
is.
down and things like
Right, right.
that. Okay.
So, but it's the 485 that's the really scary number. So yeah. So anyway, so that article is at Daily Record. There's obviously a couple of versions of it. He and I were a little bit unclear what prospective need was, so we were going to ask if we could reach out to the town to maybe understand that better. So what exactly that means.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them and see if anybody can explain that for us.
It may be a good idea at some point to maybe have somebody that's closely involved and an expert come in and talk to the board. I attended quite a few of those meetings, many years ago when this first got on the front burner. And, just off the top of my head, I have a lot of questions, how many houses they want rehabbed and how many are available for rehabilitation for starters and so on. And, where's the built out line in the sand? Is it over or under what the expectations of the court is? So, but some of the meetings I attended, the attorney that was dealing with that for Denville really had a good grasp on all the legislation, the court outcomes, et cetera. So I think it would be very beneficial. But, off the top of my head, it's just like the court just painted everybody with the same brush. Especially those Bergen County towns, since I grew up in Bergen County. Most of those towns are 1 mile square. You could walk from one side to the other in maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And Tenafly was built out when I left. So I know they put in some apartments or converted some to affordable housing. So it'd be very interesting to hear from an expert and also, what the next steps are. If it sounds to me it's a very unrealistic benchmark for some of the towns, especially yours.
Yeah, no, and kind of to layer on that, the conversation that Mike and I had kind of continued. So one of the questions we had was, since we lost St. Francis, obviously we maybe have lost some credits for senior housing, which I know can be, so those credits may be gone. But now we also have this fairly huge piece of open property right in the middle of town. So what's the prospect there? If somebody's going to take that and build units, like, what could that potentially look like? So these are questions. I would love to get answered, Don. For sure.
And the St. Francis property is deeded, I believe, for senior housing and continuing care when it was sold. There's a lot of legal issues, and I can tell you a lot of people in town won't be happy about putting a bunch of townhouses up on that piece of property.
If this is statewide, I wonder if Dr. Grip has insight, being that he works with Rutgers as well. So maybe he has some insight or nuggets of information that we could use when he does his study as well. The last meeting, I remember you saying that Dr. Grip is working, or he's got a couple of studies in his pipeline. So we're slated for the spring. Is that correct? Or the summer?
Yep. He said spring. He did come to the last finance committee, so people could ask some questions. But he said there's a few in the pipeline. We're a few down the road, but he'll get started on it. The first thing is they'll ask us for information, which they didn't do yet.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, so Dr. Grip's study, the class size policy I think that will then lead into another space consideration sort of meeting, where we could run the numbers again, and maybe we can have a presentation similar to what we had the first time around. So with those two pieces of information in place, we could possibly then have more information for us to finally make a decision or lay the groundwork to move forward, I believe. So it'll be an interesting year.
Well, I think it's really important if the board wants that policy changed. I don't want it changed. If you want it changed, you're going to have to tell me like soon, because we're planning on what's in the policy. So if the board wants to change it, we're going to have to get moving on this pretty quickly. Because like I said, everything's predicated on that policy for right now.
From my perspective, I was thinking more of like, okay, what would the future hold? So maybe not the next school year, but maybe the following school year, or the year after that, especially with other pieces of information that's going to sort of manifest itself. I think we would want to have that information so that we could pull the trigger on a new class size policy, as well as, because that will ultimately help us decide what's our next step. New building, or et cetera. So I think those, with that being said, if we wanted to drop our class sizes to whatever number, and with Dr. Grip's new demographic projections, now we will have to make a decision as a board. So okay, any other good of the cause comments or? Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up at 6:46 p.m. For public comments. Seeing no one online and no one in the chambers, we'll close it at 6:47 p.m. And is there a need for executive session?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Adelis, can you walk us through executive, please? Sorry.
Sure. So I move to convene an executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss legal, security, negotiations, and personnel issues. Minutes of this session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
I'll second.
Yep, Mr. Cass, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Okay, before we go into executive, we for the public on YouTube, we will be adjourning immediately after with no further voting. So yeah, thank you for attending, and we are now in executive session at 6:48 p.m.